in the inaugural season of a 12-team playoff, you're about to lead your team into Happy Valley for a night game, a road game here. I've been to Penn State when it was a whiteout. The most incredible experience of my college football career is going on the road there to play there. Can you just talk about what it means to be able to go there, play in that venue, and if you had one key to victory that you could control to be able to beat Penn State, what would that be?
We're excited. I mean, I think, first of all, I think the college football playoff having, the first round games be on college campuses is awesome.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we got to go on the road, but I still think it's awesome. and to your point, 106,000, arguably as good of an environment as there is in college football. We're getting a whiteout. If you're a competitor, man, that's what you love. I mean, you got to love it, and it's going to be hard. We know that. It's going to take our best effort of the year to come out of there with a win. So we're excited about that, and we're excited about the fact that it's the first ever 12-team playoff. There's 12 teams that can compete for a national championship, and we're one of them. Yeah, it's pretty special. In terms of one thing, I mean, there's probably a lot of things we need to do. We've got to hold our composure, especially early in the game. We've just got to withstand the early just surge of energy, emotion, adrenaline that's going to come from both sides, but then obviously their crowd. And, we've done a good job of that all year. Of course, we haven't played in this environment all year. And I think if you go back to last week, we played in a really good environment in Charlotte. We played one of our worst quarters of the year in the first quarter. And that's uncharacteristic of us, but we got down 21-7. And that just made it harder as we clawed back the whole game. And we can't afford to do that on the road in Happy Valley against a team as good as Penn State.
One correction, it'll be a noon game, not night game. Sorry, but still a whiteout.
Correction. I'm really
still a whiteout. Still gonna be cool.
Yeah, okay? For sure.
Well, Coach, first thing I want to say is that pullover is absolutely.
Yeah, I want the hat.
Fire.
I want the hat.
And the hat is just. Yeah, I mean, you're just dripping right now in swag. I want to know what stands out to you most about this Penn State team that's going to make them a unique matchup in the playoff.
I think they're really complete. I think with 12 teams left, everybody at this level should hold you to a different level of accountability than they did in the regular season. If we don't show up ready to play, if we don't have our best stuff, they should hold us more accountable than other teams that didn't make it, right? Because they're good. And so I think when you look at their defense, aside from the fact that they probably got a top 10 pick at edge, I think their team speed, and I don't mean this as a disrespect to the Big Ten. It's not Big Ten speed. It's SEC, ACC defensive speed. They can run at every position on that defense. I think they're really experienced. A lot of 3- and 4-year guys on that defense, and so that's what makes them a problem defensively. Is you see them play film against Ohio State and Oregon, and those teams don't look as fast as they normally do playing against Penn State because that's how fast their defense is. I think when you look at their offense, obviously, the uniqueness of what they do with Andy is really hard to prepare for. Tight end is an elite player. I mean, elite. And that's not to downplay how good the quarterback and their 2 running backs are and their O-line and their wideouts, but they give you a lot of problems with formations and different unique sets. And they got a tight end that's a matchup problem for anybody that's in the NFL right now. And so I think that's the challenge. There's not really a weakness, and we got to go play at their place.
Well, Coach, I got one more. I know you're a busy man. I know how to get, you've been in a lot longer than I have, but I know how to get ready for a game that's going to rain. You get the ball wet. I know how you get ready for a loud crowd. You pump in crowd noise at practice. What do you do to get ready for the cold, or you just go out there and say, hey, no sleeves during warm-ups. It's time to man up. Let's get it.
A little of that. You go practice outside. Fortunately for us, there are some cold days in Dallas right now. Like last week we were going to play at night in Charlotte, and it was going to be between 37 and 43. Well, luckily last week we practiced in the mornings too. So we had 2 mornings that it was around 40 degrees, and we went outside and practiced, and got our guys used to it. We addressed it early in the week, said, hey, it's going to be cold, and that's awesome. And fortunately, our guys didn't wear a lot of sleeves and all the hand warmers and all that. And it's going to probably be a little different level cold up there. Thank goodness it is a noon kick. So whether it's 30, 35, like tomorrow morning, it's going to be 40 degrees at 8 a.m. and we're going to be outside practicing.
There you go. Let's go.
And if we were playing somewhere it was going to be 80, we'd probably go in the indoor, but that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, and popsicles for breakfast.
The line right now, -9 Penn State, so that's gone up at least 1.5 points, I think, since Blaine talked to us about where it opened. 53.5 on the over-under. I think that's gone up a little bit too. How's this one going to go?
Well, the easy answer would be, SMU is the underdog. A lot of people don't think they belong in. Penn State's going to roll them. I think this SMU team, as far as togetherness, and this is something I want to talk about, they have, everybody's like, oh, well, they were able to right the ship against Clemson and come back and make it a close game. This isn't the first time this SMU team has righted the ship. Remember the beginning of the year when they had to sneak past Nevada in the first game? Or they looked inept from a blocking standpoint against BYU and lost that game? They rallied the troops, had a 2-quarterback system with Preston Stone and then Kevin Jennings, were able to not only rally behind one guy, but reel off all these wins in a row. I don't want to hear about the schedule. The level that they're playing at right now, even after the loss to Clemson, compared to 2 to 3 games in, is light years away. But here's what this game's going to come down to, because they all come down to it. It's the line of scrimmage. So if you're SMU, there's skill guys. I can go get skill guys in FCS at receiver that can come up to FBS and make plays. Can your left tackle block Abdul Carter? Can your center snap, block, step, and back block that nose or that shade from Penn State? That's what it's going to come down to. And when I look at this SMU team, Penn State's going to do one of two things to him defensively with Tom Allen, who's a hell of a defensive coach. They're going to say either, we think we're better than you, so much better than you up front with our front seven compared to your offensive line. We don't need to bring any added pressure. We can run our base stuff, overs, unders, and just beat you one-on-one and supplement the best part of your offense, which is the skill position, even with R.J. Maryland out for the season with extra help. Or they're going to say, you know what? We've got to keep Kevin Jennings in a box. So we're going to bring pressure and not give that pass rush time to get back to him and let him escape it and make a decision. Either way, you have to have an answer. So can SMU on both sides of the line of scrimmage, their offensive line in pass protection and run blocking, their defensive line in getting to Drew Aller and not letting offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki let his plays develop down the field, where Penn State is different this year. They can take shots down the field. They can be creative. When he has time, that's where Tyler Warren can run all these Mickey Mouse and Dr. Seuss routes down the field and mesh guys into each other and break a man coverage. That's the question that's got to be answered, and that's typically the difference in the newbies that are working their way up, like an SMU in Power 4, and a Power 4 powerhouse like a Penn State. That's the difference that the line of scrimmage. We got to wait and find out, but I do know this, David. Having Kevin Jennings and his athletic ability back there can get Penn State out of a lot of trouble. Can he capitalize when he gets out of that trouble? And how much man coverage will Tom Allen run against SMU because he can run like that?
You like the 9 points right now?
This game is so hard to bet. The biggest factor I kind of look at the beginning is the weather, right? It's going to be cold and snowy in this game at Penn State, and how does SMU adjust to that? And another thing SMU can do if they are overmatched up front on the offensive line against the Penn State's defensive line, tempo. Yeah, how fast can I run these guys to get them tired? That's only going to help you. And on the other side for SMU, if it's me, first thing, you got to stop the run game. What is Penn State best at? They want to run the football, and I am sending everything I have at Drew Aller. Drew Aller is a quarterback. If you get to him early, he will make mistakes. You have to win the turnover battle if you're an SMU. Is SMU ready for this moment? This big of a stage? Like the ACC championship, they were somewhat ready for it, at least in the second half. But are they ready to go into an environment like this? Because I promise you, it's going to be hell. It's going to be held at Penn State, one of the loudest stadiums in the country, and a whiteout. I can't wait to see how Rhett Lashley and his guys stand up to this opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you on SMU's defense and how will they hold up against Penn State's rushing attack. I was thinking the same thing before the ACC championship game. But let's just talk about a couple things here that we've seen from both of these programs. SMU in that ACC championship, it looked really ugly there for a while in the first half. All of a sudden in the second half, they stormed back, not just to make it close, but to tie the football game and force Clemson to make a 56-yard field goal to win it. To come back in a game like that, you need adjustments on offense and defense. So I've seen SMU in a big-time game recently play from behind. I've seen that. Now, on the Penn State side of things, in the Big Ten championship game, it looked like there were some times where Oregon was going to run away with that. It seemed like Penn State was able to answer on offense and sort of get into this shootout-type game against Oregon. I haven't really seen that from Penn State. But then also earlier in the season against the Buckeyes, they got up 10-0. They got up 10-0, weren't able to hold on to that lead, and I saw them give a game away. So I'm just really interested to see here, how can these teams, if someone does jump out to an early lead, will it be safe, or can we see the other team come back?
Yeah, because we saw Penn State literally try and take the air out of the ball against Ohio State when they went up 10-0 early in that game. They looked like a totally different team philosophically on offense than they did against Oregon and really the rest of the season. I mean, Penn State hasn't had trouble winning any of the games they're supposed to win. It's the game against the big dogs that they haven't been able to win. So how are they going to view SMU? But I do want to make this point when it comes down to pass rushing Drew Aller, because Drew Aller's not going to win any 100-meter Olympic gold medals by any stretch of the imagination. But if I'm on an SMU defensive coach this week, especially a defensive line coach, you still have to have a lot of integrity as a pass rusher against Drew Aller, because he does find ways to extend plays, and he's a little bit more athletic in a goofy way, kind of a Jameis Winston way, than he looks. So you can't just assume if I get back there, and he's a big guy, that I'm just going to get him down. I still have to be a very organized, a very smart, and a pass rusher that understands that my lane is still important. I can't go crazy and go wide. But to Blaine's point, make no mistake, this offense, even with Andy Kotelnicki trying to take shots downfield, it runs through the run game. All right, it runs through Singleton and Allen.
Tyler Warren.
Yeah, and Tyler Warren is kind of the icing on top of the cake that they want to bake, and they're able to use him in multiple ways. But I wouldn't push SMU to the side just because you're not used to seeing them in this moment. And a lot of it has to do with Kevin Jennings' ability to be impromptu, which we got a clip.
Bring up 19A. This is why you can't count SMU out right here.
Right here. Yeah, let's play it. So it's against Clemson. Pushing the pocket back. He's able to escape. Keeps his eyes downfield. I decide not to run. DB comes up. It opens somebody. You put him in a conflict they didn't know that they had signed up for when that play was snapped. Because that DB's thinking, hey, quarterback's in the pocket. I'm sitting down in my zone in zone coverage. I'm good. All of a sudden, oh, God, here comes Kevin Jennings, and I got a decision to make. If I don't go get him, he is going to run for that first down. Mm-hmm. But if I do go get him, I've got to leave a zone. And that's the conflict. It's the havoc plays. I said this about Cade Klubnik. A lot of these games don't come down to you making the play as it was drawn up or designed. It's you making the play outside of the play, how it was designed. That's what puts the defense in conflict. We call it a bastardization. That's what used to scare me to death.
And it's not like Clemson's defensive line's a bunch of scrubs.
No.
Either.
Peter Woods and them can't get it.
Peter Woods, TJ Parker, they got guys running around. So it's not like SMU's going to walk into a defensive line they've never seen before.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's an example right there of a quarterback using his mobility not to pick up positive yards himself, but to keep a play alive so that you can still deliver the football down the field. That's very dangerous. My question is, and this is why I wanted to pull that, can Kevin Jennings do that on the road, in the cold, in a whiteout, against Penn State, consistently without doing this? Now show 18A, and this is Will Howard. Right now, Buckeyes stormed back in this game. Can Kevin Jennings do what we saw before without making mistakes like this?
Howard will throw it underneath.
Jumped it.
Right?
That's what.
Just again, one split second of confusion in zone coverage.
And if you look, what was the thing that held Kevin Jennings back from being the starter over Preston Stone? It was kind of the Thomas Castellanos syndrome. It's, wow, I can make a great play avoiding pressure, but then I turn what should have been a bad play, a sack, into a disastrous play, into a turnover. So one of the reasons that SMU started to win and operate offensively at the level they operated was Kevin Jennings was making that guy miss, then making the right decision with the ball after that. And sometimes you can make the right decision, but not execute it physically. You make a bad throw, kind of like we saw Cade Klubnik going behind the running back when he scrambled there and it turns into an interception. Because the path is narrow for SMU, right? Let's not make any mistake. The path is a lot wider for Penn State. Yes, they're at home. Roster's a little bit different. The path is more narrow for SMU. You've got to take advantage of the havoc plays. You cannot let the havoc plays wreak havoc on your team. Because, yeah, you came back against Clemson. That was great. That was a neutral site game. This is at Happy Valley, all right? And say what you want. Ohio State's roster is worth $20 million, all right? It's a lot easier to bury somebody when their roster's not worth $20 million as opposed to when they are. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I find.
I just wouldn't be surprised, and I'm surprised I didn't see this a lot more out of Clemson. I'm putting a QB spy on this guy every play.
Well, it's
every single play. If I'm Penn State, I have a guy who's going to spy him no matter what. And if you're a defensive end, you can't do what? You can't rush past him. Yeah. You can't do it. You have to keep this Jennings in front of him or he's going to tear you apart. Because right now, Penn State, what's the most mobile guy Penn State has seen?
I was thinking about that earlier.
Is it Will Howard?
Is it Will?
I mean, Dylan Gabriel can move a little bit. I was thinking the same thing earlier. I don't know.
Well, and look, spies get caught and killed too. right? Just because you have a spy on somebody doesn't mean that it's going to work. They even caught James Bond a couple times. Now, he got away at the end, but if you're Kevin Jennings, if I'm SMU, I'm looking like, all right, you want to spy me? Great. That takes the guy out of coverage. Now I know that you're going to spy me, and when I move and he moves, it opens up a hole in the coverage, and that'll be an adjustment that the coaching staff has to see and tell the wide receivers, hey, if he gets out wide and it turns into a scramble drill, this is the void that's going to be created, whether it's man coverage or whether it's zone coverage. If it was me and we were going to spy him, we would do what Georgia did against Jalen Milroe, rush 3 and spy with 2, which means if one spy shoots because you got to pick a side, the other one can replace him in coverage. Maybe that leads to a mistake. That's how I would handle it.
They opened with Garrett Green in West Virginia, and Garrett Green escapes the pocket.
Yeah, he's got some witch ability.
And they held him to 5 yards on 10 carries. I think that's taking the sacks into account too. But maybe the most mobile quarterback they played.
Yeah, look, it does present a problem. All right, let's get to the chat. We're going to get to the phones here in a couple minutes and get ready for Rhett Live.
All right, let's go to Adam Shepardson. What's up, Adam? He says, I don't think SMU protects well enough to win at Penn State. The crowd noise gives that DL a huge advantage. Give me Abdul Carter for 2+ sacks.
Well, physically, you feel better about the Penn State front seven against the SMU offensive line. But, David, we've talked about ways, how do you combat that? Well, you mentioned with Tennessee, rolling out, sprint out, eliminate one half of the pass rush. Yeah, you may eliminate one side of the field, but you eliminate one half of the pass rush when you're able to sprint out, whether it's into the boundary, even to the field, to maybe open up Penn State, pitch a little bit backwards. There are ways, screen game. How much? That's why I'm interested to see if Penn State's going to pressure. Because if Penn State does pressure, Rhett Lashley's going to screen you. They will find a way and say, look, they're showing this, they're bringing it most of the time, and it's not just HB slip screens. It's tight end delays. It's now screens. It's tunnel screens. It's jailbreak screens. It's finding ways to combat maybe a physical deficiency by, schematically finding ways to do it.
All right, let's go to Speedy Pete. He says, would this count as a big win for James Franklin? Because, damn it, he needs one.
It will be a big win, but I don't think in the eyes of Penn State fans it's going to be like a win over Michigan or Ohio State or Oregon the way that it was in the past when we used to have divisions. So I don't see it that way.
Let's go to JC. He said it's going to come down whether or not SMU can get pressure on Aller and slow down the run game. Penn State we saw Allen go off against Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised if he does the same thing against SMU.
Well, what's one of the best ways to get pressure? You get them in passing downs. You get them in downs where you know what's going to happen. Because if you can't stop the run, we talked about this with Indiana going against Notre Dame. If you can't stop the run, that is the greatest camouflage for a quarterback coming off play action, or it doesn't get you. It's hard to sit here and pin your ears back when it's 3rd and 2 as a defensive end. It's hard to sit here and say, guys, it's 3rd and 3. They're definitely going to throw it. You don't know that, especially if they've been leaning on you in the run game as well. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Appreciate you guys stopping by. As usual, like you hear on every promo like this, hit the subscribe button and like every video. It's the American thing to do.